Hi there, I'd like to introduce you to CaseLoad risk assessment. So we've introduced a digital risk assessment into CaseLoad, which allows you to track all of your risk assessment metrics per transaction. So you can see on screen here, I'm in the AML Risk Centre. These are the risk assessments which have been completed, so you can see the status of those. And you can see on the left hand side the status of anything that's missing that's yet to be completed, anything that needs approved by the MLRO, and then some certification metrics which we'll cover in a later video. So on the risk assessment, I'm going to go into missing AML risk assessments, and I'm going to open up a matter. So you see when you open up a matter, the indicator icon lets us know that there's no record available. As that gets completed, it will be green, amber or red depending on low, medium or high. So click on that, you can see we still need to complete that and the certification. So if we open up the risk assessment, you'll see we've got some tabs along here. I'll run through each of what these mean and how to complete those. So the first option is here, is the client a natural person or a non-natural person? So is the client an individual or a couple, which is considered a natural person? A non-natural person is a corporate entity, a commercial organisation with directors, and we will look at that tab in a wee minute. So we'll say there's a natural person, so you would leave that unticked, only tick that if it is a non-natural person. And then what we're looking to do is for you to fill out what's known in terms of client information, location of client, and some other options. It's basically the Law Society guidance on the latest risk assessment and what you should consider as you go through the transaction. So I've verified the client's identity. Let's say yes to that. Is the client known to you personally in a new business relationship? So we put in some options in here. These options can be expanded upon. This is just a lookup. So if you need other options in there, they can be added. So let's say known personally. And really what we're doing here is putting any comments that gives us comfort or raises any concerns. This bit here is about third party. So if they're introduced by a third party or as an instruction channel through a third party. So you would answer yes to that if that was applicable and put some information notes in there as well. So then we're considering the location and the client interaction. So where is the client based? Is it locally, EU, UK or international? Have they any links to criminality? Are they based in a high risk third country? So you would answer yes to either of those questions. Have you met with the client face to face or is it non face to face? So you can say you've met face to face, you've not met face to face, or it is a complete non face to face transaction. You'll see if you say yes to that, it blanks out the option to give a reason for non face to face. Are they acting through an intermediary? Does that make sense? Any reason that wouldn't be considered applicable? And have we identified the intermediary's identity? Then we've got a section on sanctions, PEPs and adverse media. So are they a PEP? Are they a politically exposed person? Have you undertaken any additional searches? So you would say yes if that was applicable to those. Then we're looking at ID and address verification. So have they provided that? Do you have copies of that, or have you received that through an ID provider? So you could say yes or no to that. And then we're looking at source of wealth and reliance and risk appetite. So source of wealth, does the client source of wealth stack up with the amount involved? Are they running a high risk cash turnover business like pub or hairdressers or anything that involves high risk? You would answer your questions in here as well as applicable. Will be an exercising reliance on another entity? You can say yes or no to that. And if it has been exercised, has due diligence been conducted on that entity? And taking all that into above, are the risks associated with this client within your practice's risk appetite? So you could say yes to that. Then we'll come back to non-natural persons, but transaction risk. But then looking at the actual transaction itself, the type, the value, the source of funds. So could it be used for high money laundering? Is it conveyancing? Is it a high risk one? Does it make sense or complex? And again, you can read through those questions as you're filling them out just to be clear what you're answering yes or no to. Does it make sense that I've asked you to carry out a transaction because it's within your expertise, local geographical area? does the value does the transaction appear to fall within the financial means of your client? Again, you can put an answer in to say why that's the case. Are the source of funds clear and identifiable? Are they coming from a recognised institution or personally funded? Again, if there's other options required in there, that can be expanded upon. If they're coming from overseas, where, who from, what's the connection? So you would answer the questions on that one if that was the case. Are the funds being paid by a third party otherwise unconnected to the transaction? So is funds being gifted from someone else? If you say yes, have you ID'd the gifters? Do you have ID, bank statements, etc. on that to confirm that that's where the legitimate source of funds is coming from? Did they ask to change at the last minute? Have they paid excess funds into the client account? Does the matter undertaken involve the use of crypto, virtual assets or crowdfunding platforms? And does this pose any additional risks? So you answer those questions as well. And then finally, in a transaction like a sale, the destination of funds. Are they being paid to someone else other than the lender or the client? Or are they being paid to an overseas account? So you would answer the questions on that one as well. Before I pop on to risk assessment, we'll just look at the non-natural persons tab. That is probably going to be used a bit less, but we've put scope in there for that to be answered as well. So body corporate legal entity type. What is the type of entity? Is it a private company? Is it a limited company? School, charity? You would answer that for a commercial. Pop in the registration number if you've got that there. Then the sector type. What type of sector is it? And you've got some options in there as well. And then just a regulated matter description would go in there. Then, because it is a company, we've kept these questions in. So some of them might overlap with the client risk, but in essence, the non-natural persons is a lot more complex given the nature of the company, potential multiple directors to be ID'd as well. So what we've added here is a holistic overview section. You'd answer these couple of questions. The same with the client information. I'll not run through all of them, but you would basically answer those questions as you go through them, and that covers your client information. Then your location, geographical risks possible, where is it established? Is it in a high-risk country, for example? You would answer that. Then again, client interaction. Have you met with them face-to-face? What options have you had in there? If it's not face-to-face, is there reasons for that? And then the same with sanctions, PEPs and adverse media, which again does kind of overlap with client risk, but this is more for a non-natural person. Any matter level risk factors and your source of funds. So once you've completed that, we're then looking for you to provide the appropriate points. Obviously I'm doing this for the first time, so this is the initial assessment of risk. Then we'll do an interim and then a final. So on the initial, I'm going to just mark this as high, just so you can see what happens next. I'm going to say high, and then just put high value. You would obviously expand on your reason for that, and then I'll save and close that. So what you'll see is that's went red because of what we given it a high risk transaction. So there'll be an event in the system to say that that's been marked as a high risk transaction. The MLRO in your organisation will get an email. As you can see, an AML risk assessment has been performed and a letter sent to you for approval. It gives them some details of the matter, what you've put in the comments, and asking them to go visit CaseLoad and approve, or in some cases reject, that transaction from proceeding. So if we go back in, I'm now going to go back in as the MLRO, open up that risk assessment. They would then verify, they would read over the information you provided, just like they would do in a paper risk assessment for client risk and transaction risk. And then the last tab's for them, the MLRO tab. You can see it's defaulting to waiting approval. So if I click on approved, you see it's assessed by me, the assessment date, and just put OK to proceed. And we'll save and close that. So that's that then filled out. So if I go back to my main grid view, you can see that's now at the top. So the Mr. Hoskins one we've just done, the informations are provided, the initial risk, you can see as the transactions proceed, the risk assessment is done on each stage for initial, interim and final, and then an easy go-to area where the MLRO can actually see what's been approved versus what's not approved. So for example, they might want to filter to just show the awaiting approval, and then they know they've got these 3 to consider to complete those transactions. So in essence, that's your AML risk assessment. We do have a second tab called AML certification, which I will just show you just at the end here. So if I go back to that matter we've just been in and go into the risk centre and look at the AML certification, you see any answers we gave initially will be ticked. So if I've said it's a UK client, it will tick that automatically. The same with face-to-face, and anything we've considered as high risk, which I did answer no to that. So if I just give this a client type, a work type, and you can see when it's a financial transaction involving something like a purchase or a sale, it asks for some property details. Company formation, it wouldn't ask for that, and then you would just save and close that. So on the purchase, we put property type, commercial or private. Purchase type, is the client buying it to live in it, or is it an investment property? You've got those options in there. Property value, anything the client funds value. Is it a cash purchase or not? Is it 7-day sale funds? So is this the purchase been funded by a property that was sold in the last 7 days? You would tick yes to that. And is there any third party funds? And then it would ask you to pick any, add in the details of third party funds that are coming from a gifter. And then you've got your PEP options in there. So when you save and close that, your transaction is now marked as high risk, your AML certification is complete, and you can then proceed with the transaction. If anyone's got any questions on that, they can message helpdesk@denovobi.com, and if you don't have the risk assessment, let us know as well, and we can get that deployed to your version of CaseLoad. Thanks for watching.